Hello, Horror Stories. I dare to share this story. It happened to my girlfriend and her brother a few years ago, and I have permission to do so. It's a terrifying tale that marked their lives, and I don't think there's any explanation for this paranormal event, at least not for us. At that time, we were just friends, attending the same school and knowing each other very well. We shared summer afternoons, party nights. We were inseparable. A few months ago, her brother, a young truck driver following in his father's footsteps, acquired a new truck. He really enjoyed driving and sometimes shared trips with his father, as they worked for the same company. I remember that month both of them had gone on vacation together. Upon returning on a Monday, they arrived around 4 in the afternoon and found a note on the refrigerator door. He said that they had gone out to take care of their grandmother, who was not feeling well, and he assured them that he would call them that night to tell them about her progress, so they should not worry. My girlfriend and her brother couldn't help but feel worried, since their grandmother lived alone and was an elderly person. Despite being tired, they dropped off their suitcases, grabbed a coffee, and hit the road with the truck from Wyoming to Pocatello in Idaho. They had about 6 or 7 hours of travel ahead of them, so they expected to arrive early in the morning. My girlfriend told me they made a stop for a couple of hours after driving for a while. They decided to stop at a store to grab a bite and use the restroom. The store was completely deserted, with only a woman behind the counter. The light was dim, barely illuminating the cash register, and the only sound was the hum of an old refrigerator motor. Before entering the store, my girlfriend noticed a wooden cross planted in the ground a few meters away, adorned with recent floral arrangements, and the date of what she assumed was the death. It was obvious that it was a memorial for someone who had died in a road accident. This aroused her curiosity, so she asked the woman in the store who the cross belonged to. The storewoman, with a somber look, replied in a trembling voice, "That cross is to remember a young man who died in a tragic car accident a few months ago. It was a terrible event that shocked the entire community." My girlfriend was shaken by the response, but her curiosity led her to ask for more details about the accident. The woman, with a compassionate expression, told her how the young man had lost his life in a head-on collision with another vehicle on a nearby curve of the road, while on his way to his best friend's wedding. The story resonated in my girlfriend's mind as she continued with her shopping in the store. The idea that such a tragic accident had occurred on the same road they were about to travel sent shivers down her spine. Back at the truck, she found her brother waiting inside, sitting in the driver's seat ready to continue their journey. Upon entering, she noticed with surprise that the same flowers she had seen on the deceased's cross were inside the vehicle. With indignation, she asked her brother where he had gotten them from, to which he replied that he had taken them from the cross to take to their sick grandmother. She insisted that they did not belong to them, that it was disrespectful, and asked him to leave them where they were. But her brother refused and started the truck. During the rest of the journey, the atmosphere in the truck became tense. They argued about the presence of the flowers, and as they drove along the lonely road, the silence outside became increasingly overwhelming, interrupted only by the gentle hum of the engine and the occasional squeak of the tires turning. Until suddenly, in a curve, her brother made a sudden maneuver and they overturned. My girlfriend says she managed to see something standing on the road before they overturned, but she couldn't see who or what it was. The sudden swerve of the vehicle caught them by surprise, causing the world around them to spin in a frenzy of uncontrolled movement. My girlfriend barely had time to react before the car flipped, her heart pounding fiercely as adrenaline surged through her body. Amidst the confusion and chaos, she tried to stay calm as the car came to a halt with a dull thud. When they finally managed to regain their balance and exit the vehicle, my girlfriend hurried to check if her brother was okay. Fortunately, both emerged from the accident unscathed, though visibly shaken by the experience. As they stood next to the overturned truck, their gazes turned towards the road, searching for some explanation for what had just occurred. At that moment, my girlfriend recalled having seen something strange in the distance a few minutes earlier, a dark figure that seemed to be standing in the middle of the road. A shiver ran down her spine as she tried to focus on the mysterious figure, but before she could discern any further details, it vanished into the darkness of the night. She wondered if the presence of that figure had any connection to the floral arrangement in memory of the deceased. When she gathered her belongings inside the truck, before help arrived, she noticed that the flowers were no longer there. She considered the possibility that they had been scattered during the rollover, but all the windows were closed, and only damage to the metal parts of the vehicle was observed. But, at that moment, she was more concerned about her and her brother's health, thankful that despite experiencing a big jolt and several impacts, they were still alive. When they were assisted, they were taken to the nearest hospital in the community, and upon receiving the phone call at their grandmother's house, their parents went to see them within a few hours. After the accident, both my girlfriend and her brother were evaluated by doctors. Fortunately, they didn't suffer serious injuries, just some bruises and scrapes. However, they were both visibly affected by what they had experienced on the road. My girlfriend couldn't stop talking about the dark figure she saw before the rollover, while her brother was disturbed by the flowers that mysteriously appeared inside the hospital room. They were the same flowers he had stolen hours before from the deceased. The presence of the flowers in the hospital room only added more mystery to the situation. How could those flowers have made it to the hospital? And why were they exactly the same flowers that the brother had picked up from the accident scene at that store? Finally, the doctors gave them the green light to go home. Although still disturbed by what had happened, they headed back to their grandmother's house in Pocatello. However, the journey back was filled with an uncomfortable silence. Neither of them wanted to broach the subject again, but both were tormented by the unanswered questions swirling in their minds. My girlfriend and her brother tried to explain the details of the accident as best they could, but even in recounting it, they still felt a sense of uneasy. The atmosphere in the house was tense, as if an invisible shadow was present, reminding them of the strange experience on the road and in the hospital. As the night wore on, the feeling of unease didn't diminish. Everyone tried to carry on with their usual activities, but it was evident that the incident had left a mark on all of them. They went to bed that night with their minds filled with unanswered questions and a feeling of unease that they couldn't shake off. The next morning, my girlfriend and her brother woke up hoping that it had all been just a nightmare. However, as they remembered the details of the accident and the strange coincidences surrounding it, they realized it was real. The experience had changed them forever, leaving them with a deep sense of discomfort and greater caution when facing the unknown. Since then, every time they travel along that road, they can't help but recall that terrifying night and the unanswered questions that still linger. Although they try to move on with their lives, the shadow of that supernatural encounter continues to haunt them, reminding them that there are things in this world that escape our understanding and that sometimes truth is indeed stranger than fiction. They concluded that the deceased had taken revenge for them having taken the flowers that night. He had given them a big scare to teach them the lesson that the deceased deserve respect. Although it may seem like a crazy idea, they learned not to underestimate them or take things that didn't belong to them, even if their souls were no longer with us. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like and subscribe to not miss out on other equally unsettling tales like this one.